Well, James Horwill, the bell is sounding coming the end of the career. What's informed that decision?
I think I've been thinking it's obviously a decision that you don't come to lightly, and I've been doing a lot of thinking. And earlier in the year, I had a lot of injuries, and I just felt that the time was right. I didn't want to. I put a lot of effort into rugby, and I didn't want to. I didn't feel that I could continue to give the effort that I wanted to give, and I felt it deserved the team, the game, myself. And so if I feel that I can't give that effort, then I think the decision sort of was made for me that time to walk away and do something different.
And the young family, perhaps a little bit of an influence as well?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the wife's secretly happy, or not secretly happy, but she's a bit relieved as well. I think, look, I'm very lucky to have them in my life, and looking forward to spending a lot more time with them and being able to plan. I think my wife's excited we can plan holidays on our own accord rather than having to wait for rugby season to finish. So I think that's a nice part of it.
Yeah, will South West London be holding on to you? Do you think the call of the sunshine in Australia is coming pretty soon?
I'm hoping to stay in the UK in the short term at least. I'm looking at doing some more study options and things like that. So in the short term, I'd like to stay here in the UK, but we'll see where the road takes us.
See if the grandparents are needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What are the sort of memories you have? I mean, you've debut against Fiji and a 2011 World Cup to have enjoyed, captaining a Lions series in terms of Australia against them. What are the moments that you remember the fondest?
Look, it's hard to put it. When you think back, I think obviously you remember your first of everything. First game for Queensland, first game for Australia. Even first game for Quins. First game as captain for Australia was a huge one for the Tri Nations. Winning the Super Rugby title, I think, is probably the number one, purely because of where we'd been. The Queensland history we hadn't been very good, and I think we were probably almost the laughing stock of Super Rugby for 3 or 4 years. And to slowly build back the pride in Queensland sport and Queensland rugby, I think was probably the proud moment for me, and topped it off by winning at Suncorp Stadium at home. I think it was at that stage the largest ever crowd that had been assembled in that stadium. I think all those sort of things are probably what makes that the number one for me.
And you're in a unique position, having played as much as you did in the Southern Hemisphere and then for Australia, and then coming over here to experience the Premiership. How do those sort of two lifestyles, two styles of rugby compare? Yeah,
look, I think there are some distinctive. I think the weather certainly plays a big impact.
It's a lovely grey day in Surrey.
Yeah, look, and I think certainly an impact, particularly through the winter months. I think even it's changing definitely now. The Premiership, there's a lot more rugby being played from all teams, but I think when I first came, it was a lot more pragmatic. The pitches probably weren't as good as they are now, so you didn't really have an option but to play sort of the 10-man rugby at times, particularly in the depths of winter, whether it's raining, it's cold, it's windy. Whereas in Super Rugby, most of them are played in quite big stadiums. The surfaces are all, pretty much immaculate, and the focus is on speed of ball movement and moving around. You see the speed of Super Rugby at the moment. You certainly spend a lot more time at home playing over here in the Premiership, which has been nice. I think we used to spend basically with the Wallabies, you used to spend about 6 months of the year away from home. So that's been a great part of it here for me as well, to be able to spend more time in your own bed with your family.
Get through those box sets.
Yeah, exactly. I always just spend more time with your wife, allow me to finish my degree, which I'd been struggling to get through. So I think they're certainly, it's different, but they're both very unique in their own right.
When you captained that series in 2013, there was a young man in the side who'd crossed over from rugby league and was making his debut. Israel Folau has obviously been a major story over the last few weeks, and a year ago as well. I know you and I have spoken briefly about it before. What were your first impressions of him as a man when he came into the side as an athlete and as a guy? Oh, look, he's
probably one of the most unique athletes I've ever come across. I mean, his physical abilities that you'd almost every day at training you'd be in awe on what he could do. You can see it when he does it on the field, but he's one of the most physically gifted people I think I've ever played rugby with.
And on that basis, how big a loss is he going to be to Australia?
Oh look, I think anyone that can, he's the leading try scorer for Super Rugby. He'd be pretty close to getting there for the Wallabies. I mean, he's a guy that can turn a game on its head, so he's going to be a loss. But the ARU have decided to make that decision, and I think they've got to stand by it. They obviously had some discussions a year ago and from all reports, I'm not sure, but by what they're saying, they made it in no uncertain terms that this was unacceptable, and if it happens again, they were left with no option. And you have to give them credit that they've stuck to their word and said that this is unacceptable and we're not going to accept it anymore.
Yeah, and in your existence as a professional player at club or country, have you experienced the sort of detail in contracts or things as social media develops that you're reminded of your responsibilities? How easy is it to put a foot out of line?
Yeah, well, I think it's sort of, I'm probably show my age here, I don't think social media wasn't around when I started playing. So
or the internet.
The internet was only just starting to come through. No, but I think, I think that's part of the game and rugby that's had to evolve with it and work over time, because as I said, at the start, it just wasn't a thing. No one really spoke about, and you hear the stories of people back in the day of what they used to get up to, and if they had camera phones and those sort of things back then there would have been a lot more mischief going on. So I think the game has had to develop, and along with that, as it becomes more professional, the understanding, the responsibility that players have to not only the code but their employers and themselves to put themselves in the right light. And I think that's and it's going to have to keep evolving as technology in the world evolves.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent the last few days tiptoeing around the issue of religion and sport. I mean, on that side of it, people, someone like Israel Folau and Billy Vunipola, Courtney Laws, all these sort of people have come out and wanted to have a view on whether they can express themselves freely and how that therefore is affecting a lot of people that follow them as top athletes in what they do. Do you think these views, do you think it's comfortable for all of us that they do express these views, or is it something to be done privately?
Oh, it's a tough one. I think you've got to understand that your responsibility is to the game, and I think the game of, I've said it a few times, the game of rugby is an inclusive one, and that's one of the great things I think about our game, is that it's for everyone, shape, size, race, religion, sexuality, whatever you choose. Rugby's for you, and no matter where you are in the world, you can come play rugby. And as soon as we started doing things that exclude people from that and don't make them feel comfortable, I think that's an issue. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and I think the world would be a boring place if everyone had the same opinion. So I think it's important that you have your own opinion, but understanding the right place to do it and when to do it is I think the thing that we've just got to be careful of.
Harlequins then going into a European stage off the back of what must have felt a really frustrating loss at the weekend.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that we didn't play very well in the first half. Got back to being in front, did some great things at the start of the second half to get that lead. Worked our way back into it, and with 90 seconds to go, we just had to close it out. And through a few errors on our behalf and a decent bit of play from Northampton, you have to give them credit for that. They grabbed it from us at the death. So it's frustrating, but we're still in fourth position in the league, and we're still 3 games to go. We're still in a chance to win some silverware, which is what we want to do, and that's all we can rely on. And this weekend, huge against Clermont, massive game, an amazing place to play. Great tradition of rugby, European rugby as well, and probably not a lot of people give us a chance, and so that's backs against the wall. They're the games you want to play in.
And Quins have sort of had an ongoing love affair with the Challenge Cup, really, and some people might see it very much as the second tier. We know that it's not the Champions Cup, but there is still silverware at the end of it.
Yeah.
It is still the chance to be successful at the end of a campaign. How important is that, bearing in mind there are obviously going to be a lot of people, maybe even season ticket holders, that are going, that'll be all well and good, but actually we'd rather be in the Premiership playoffs, we'd rather be up there.
Well, you want to win silverware, and I think as you come to the end of your career, you realise that you don't get many options to win trophies, and so when you get a chance to win a trophy, doesn't matter what competition it's in, it's nice to do, because that's one of the main reasons you turn up each day is to win something at the end. And this is a huge competition. It's a European competition, and it's also a chance to win against some great teams. You look at the teams that have been in the Challenge Cup this year. There's been some high level European heavyweights that have been playing in the Challenge Cup. So it is a tough competition. You've seen that across the board.
Enjoy the end of your last season.
Thank you very much, mate. Appreciate it.